Good afternoon and welcome to the Tameside Reporter Football Preview Show. I'm your host Tom Greggan and joining me as always is our resident sports reporter Mark Phillip. Mark, you okay? Got in today through the snow?
Yeah, just about. Tom, yourself?
Me as well. We've got a lot to get through this week, including looking back at last weekend's results for all our non-league sides and looking ahead to this weekend's fixtures. So we'll get right to it, starting in the National League North. And a surprise win for Stalybridge Celtic, 1-0 at home to FC Halifax Town. Midfielder Chris Bagley scored an 89th minute winner to get Celtic the 3 points, which we didn't see coming, did we, Mark?
We certainly didn't. We thought Celtic were going to get hammered because obviously FC Halifax Town, with new striker Adam Morgan, they're pushing for the playoffs this season. It was a really shocking result. Chris Bagley, 89th minute on his debut. Celtic couldn't have started 2017 any better, could they?
And it's worth mentioning the performance of goalkeeper Grant Shenton, who also saved an Adam Morgan penalty and he won man of the match, I believe.
Yeah, he certainly did. By all accounts, he had an absolutely magnificent game, as you said then. Saved that Adam Morgan penalty, I believe, in the 56th minute, so kept the scores level. Obviously, Celtic went on to win 1-0 in the dying stage of the game. 3 points. It was a massive 3 points, although it does still leave them 9 points adrift to safety.
So still lots of work to do for Stalybridge, but they turn their attention to the Manchester Premier Cup this weekend, a semi-final at home to Salford City, who are in fine form at the minute, Mark.
Yeah, they certainly are. They're another team that are pushing for the playoffs this season. But as I've mentioned a moment ago, Celtic beat another playoff pusher in Halifax Town. There's no reason why they can't go and progress to the final of the Manchester Premier Cup for a second consecutive season, but unfortunately last season they were beaten by Mossley in that final.
So before we move on, we'll just talk about Aidan Chippendale's departure to Bradford Park Avenue for personal reasons.
Yeah, he cited personal reasons for the move to Yorkshire. Well, I say move to Yorkshire. He actually lives 10 minutes from Bradford's ground, so it is a logical move for himself. I'd say it's a bit of a sideways step because, of course, Bradford are also fighting relegation this season. I think it'll be a massive loss to Celtic, but only time will tell.
Let's hope it doesn't have too big an effect on Celtic's season. We'll move on now to the other team in the National League North, which of course is Curzon Ashton. They were at Tamworth last weekend and fell 3-2. It was always going to be a tough tie at the Land Ground, Mark.
Absolutely. We said in last week's show that it would be a bonus if Curzon could claim a point from this tie. Tamworth, another team that are vying for promotion this season. Bit of a surprise package, it has to be said. Curzon did lose 3-2 at the Lamb Ground on that artificial surface, and by all accounts it took quite a while for the Curzon players to adjust to that surface.
Which came as quite a surprise because they train on a 3G pitch, don't they?
Yeah, it is surprising, yeah. I don't know if they're making a few excuses for the loss, but I'm not too sure. I think Tamworth, very difficult team to go and play against at their home ground. There's no shame in losing 3-2 to a team like Tamworth.
And one positive for Curzon is we mentioned they might struggle for goals after Adam Morgan left for Halifax Town, but that's not the case, is it?
Certainly not the case. I think since he's left, we've had Niall Cummins score 4 goals in 2 games, although he's been a stalwart at the club for the past 5 years, something like that. Bit of a club legend. He's always been on the score sheet for the Nash, so I think he'll fill Morgan's boots quite nicely.
So looking ahead to this weekend, Curzon Ashton have actually got 2 games, one on Saturday and one on Monday. We'll start with the game on Saturday, a trip to AFC Telford United, who are sitting 18th, Mark. I think they're 2 points below Curzon. Yeah. This is a big game if Curzon are going to sort of push up the table and away from a relegation fight.
Well, yeah, it's a massive game, and then we also have to look ahead to next Monday where they take on Worcester City at the Tameside Stadium. Worcester also struggling this season, so a decent return from these next 2 games. Curzon can enjoy the rest of the season. A poor return from these next 2 games, they'll be looking ahead to the rest of the month against Darlington and AFC Fylde, and then of course that derby against Stalybridge Celtic. It's a really big month now for Curzon Ashton.
Lots of big games coming up for Curzon. Let's hope they can get a few points in the bag. We'll move on now to the Evo-Stik Premier Division and our other Ashton side, Ashton United, who picked up an incredible result at the weekend, 3-1 against second placed Whitby Town. Mark, just talk us through some of the circumstances that they picked up this win, because it looked like it was going to be a difficult afternoon in the first 5 minutes for Ashton.
Well, we said on last week's show that Whitby, of course, title challengers, entered that game in second spot. We thought that Ashton were going to get beaten. However, they managed to beat Whitby 3-1 on home soil. Goalkeeper George Dorrington, on his debut, broke his leg, I think, in the 5th minute. Ashton had to field Richard Smith, who's a midfielder. He went and replaced Dorrington in net for about 85 minutes. They won 3-1. brilliant result.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And Matt Chadwick got a brace. Ryan Crowder scored his second goal in 2 games, I believe. Ashton need to carry this on now, don't they? Because they'll need a bit of consistency if they're going to make the playoffs. Yeah,
absolutely. I think they're 7 points below the playoff zone at the moment. You know, they need to pick up this momentum, take last week's victory into tomorrow's clash at Coalville Town, who sit in 17th spot. If they can pick up 3 points tomorrow, then I'm sure everyone at Hurst Cross will be optimistic.
In the reverse fixture against Coalville earlier on in the season, Ashton won 3-0 at Hurst Cross. Do you think they can go to Coalville and pick up a win?
I certainly do, yeah. I mean, they beat Whitby Town last weekend 3-1 with a midfielder in net. Whitby, of course, as I said a moment ago, pushing for the title this season, so there's no reason why they can't go to a side lower in the table and claim the 3 points.
Well, Ashton are back at Hurst Cross on Tuesday evening in Integral Dewton League Cup second round action. They host Northwich Victoria of the Evo-Stik First Division South, who, Mark, have gone through a pretty torrid season.
Yeah, they certainly have. I mean, they've just been recently deducted 10 points, so they now lie rock bottom of the Evo-Stik First Division South. Entered administration, lost a lot of players by all accounts. They've had a torrid few years since Jim Gannon left to return to Stockport County. I think the ground sharing at the moment with Witton Albion, it's not good for the club. And as bad as it is to say, I hope that Ashton United can capitalise on their misfortune next Tuesday.
Well, let's hope so. We'll move on now to the Evo-Stik First Division North, where of course we've got 4 teams. We'll start with Glossop North End, who picked up a much needed 3 points at home to Prescott Cables last weekend. Jamie Rainford returned to the side after his suspension with a brace, and Mike Norton also carried on his good goal scoring form, Mark. Glossop needed this after a disappointing festive period.
Yeah, absolutely, of course. They were beaten 2-1 at Hyde United on Monday the 2nd of January. They bounced back from that during the first home game of 2017. 3-1 victory over lowly Prescott Cables. As you said then, Mike Norton scored 1, Jamie Rainford grabbed a brace. That takes their tally to 11 and 12 for the season now, so they're a real dominant strike force and they'll have to take it into the remainder of the season.
Well, that's it. If Glossop are going to get into the playoffs, perhaps even maybe win the title, Norton and Rainford will be crucial because Glossop scored a lot of goals, in part thanks to these two, but they're also a bit leaky at the back.
Yeah, they certainly are leaky. I mean, looking at the stats now, they've conceded 36 goals this season, more than the top 12 in the division, so they will have to sort that defence out if they do have aspirations of claiming the title. I think it is as simple as that.
Well, let's hope Jamie Rainford and Mike Norton can carry on their good goal-scoring form into the game on Saturday away at Radcliffe Borough, Mark, who aren't having a great season. Last weekend they were beaten 5-0 by Farsley Celtic, so Glossop will be looking to capitalise on that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Radcliffe in 18th, v Glossop in 4th. Glossop will obviously be wanting to close the gap on first place Lancaster City, who, it has to be said, were held to a 1-1 draw with Goole last weekend. Goole, another lowly side struggling this season, who beat Glossop earlier in the season. This league is so unpredictable, but as you said then, they are taking on Radcliffe Borough tomorrow, and I fully expect Chris Walcock's side to pick up the 3 points in this one.
Well, we'll move on to Hyde now, who enjoyed a fantastic festive period, picking up 7 points from their 3 games. However, Mark, they couldn't carry on that form at Clitheroe on Saturday.
No, unfortunately they couldn't. They were beaten 2-1 at Nethermore. However, we said in last week's show, this was always going to be difficult for Darren Kelly's side. Of course, Clitheroe are vying for a playoff position this season. I think Hyde will be safe from relegation. We saw what they could produce over the festive period, and they'll just be looking to take Tuesday's victory over National League outfit Chester in the Cheshire Senior Cup into tomorrow's tie at Kendal Town.
Well, let's just talk about that tie with Chester now. They won on penalties after what sounds like an entertaining 3-3 draw. Yeah. As you said, against National League opposition. Yeah. A fantastic result.
Magnificent result, and I think they'll take a lot of positives from the game, considering I think they fielded something like 5 academy players in that one, Hyde, so their academy system at the moment appears to be working, and earlier this week they raised the £15,000 they needed to continue the community work, which caters for stuff like ladies team, disability training, and of course the academy, so long may that continue.
A bright future ahead for Hyde United, hopefully. In the immediate future, they've got quite a difficult trip to Kendal Town on Saturday. Kendal sitting 12th, Hyde currently in 16th. Only 3 points separate them, I believe, but this is going to be a difficult trip for the Tigers.
It's going to be a difficult trip. I think going to the Lake District at any time of the year is always a difficult journey. Hyde, I think, need to pick up the 3 points in this one. As you said then, what is the 3 points that separate them?
Yeah.
You know, win this one tomorrow, brings them level on points with the Mint Cakes. I think they need to win this one.
they'll be fully in mid-table if that's the case, which of course that's what they'll be hoping for. On to Mossley now, who picked up perhaps one of the most surprising results of the weekend, an emphatic 4-0 victory away at Colwyn Bay with Mike Fish getting a hat-trick mark. Where did this one come from?
Where did it come from? I mean, no one expected this last weekend. As you said, surprising victory, 4-0 at Colwyn Bay. It's always a difficult place to go to, Glenellian Road. So for Mossley to pick up a 4-0 victory, a clean sheet, and of course with Mike Fish scoring a hat-trick, which takes his tally to 16 for the season, magnificent result.
He's been in fine form. We'll just talk about Colwyn briefly because it was a surprise result on Mosley's part, but Colwyn have been struggling recently. They've lost, they've not won in 6 games since the new manager came in. I know you saw them at Hyde over the festive period and you weren't too impressed.
Yeah, it doesn't come as a bit of a surprise really that Mossley did go and beat them. I know we said a moment ago that was a surprising result.
It was the scoreline, I suppose.
Yeah, the scoreline, I suppose, yeah. But Colwyn Bay, when I saw them in the 2-2 draw against Hyde, they just couldn't play the ball very well. I thought Hyde went out and took the game to them. They've got a striker called Scott Bakor who didn't really make an effect in the game. I think they need to start picking up victories, otherwise they're just not going to reach the playoffs.
So back to Mossley, they host Goole AFC this weekend at Seel Park. Goole sitting 21st, Mark, so you're expecting Mossley to pick up 3 points here?
I am. But at the end of the day, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, Goole have caused a few upsets this season. They drew 1-1 with league leaders Lancaster City last weekend, and then of course earlier on in the season they beat Glossop, so who knows what the result's going to be. However, I'm sure Peter Bandside will enter the clash full of confidence, having won 4-0 at Colwyn Bay.
Let's hope so. We've just got one team left to talk about, and that of course is Droylsden. They had 2 games over the past week, starting on Saturday, a 2-1 victory over Ossett Albion thanks to Liam Caddick's 86th-minute goal. And on Tuesday night they were at home again against Ramsbottom United. That finished 1-1. Mark, last weekend we were saying a good points haul for Droylsden could see them whip up the table. Looking up the table rather than over the shoulder, and that's turned out to be the case.
Yeah, it certainly has, and it's great to see Droylsden back on track. 4 points from 2 games. They had to come from behind in that Tuesday clash against Ramsbottom United. They also had Jamie Coates, the goalkeeper, sent off in that one, so I think his suspension starts in the clash at Mossley on Tuesday the 17th of January, so I'm sure he'll be sorely missed, and that should be a pretty decent game in prospect.
Well, we'll just talk about Droylsden's defence, because defender David Artell has left the club to take up a managerial position at Crewe Alexandra, but they've brought in experienced Football League defender Clayton McDonald. He made his debut on Tuesday night. What can Droylsden fans expect from him?
I think they can expect someone who is robust in defence. He brings a lot of experience with him. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think that's what Droylsden need this season. I think they've been fine on the goal scoring front. It's been on the defensive record. It's pretty abysmal, it has to be said. Solidify that defence with Clayton leading the side, and I think they'll do pretty well this season and finish mid-table.
Well, it seems like Droylsden are going to have the work cut out for them on Saturday, because they go to Trafford, who are the league's top scorers, Mark. They sit in 3rd place. They'll be wanting to get promoted this season. Are Droylsden going to struggle?
I think they'll struggle. Trafford obviously have title ambitions this season, 3rd in the table. As you said then, top goal scorers, that speaks for itself. So Clayton McDonald, I'm sure if he does play in this fixture at Trafford tomorrow, will be a very busy man, but we wish Droylsden all the best.
All the best to Droylsden, and the rest of our teams competing this weekend and throughout next week. We'll just run through the fixtures for you. In the National League North, Curzon Ashton make the trip to Telford. Stalybridge Celtic are in Manchester Premier Cup action at home to Salford City. In the Evo-Stik Premier Division, Ashton United away at Coalville Town, who sit in 17th, so hopefully Ashton can pick up a result there. In the Evo-Stik First Division North, Hyde have got a tough trip to Kendal, whereas Droylsden have got an even tougher trip to high-flying Trafford. Glossop are away at Radcliffe Borough, but Mossley are at home to Goole. We've got a few midweek games. On Monday, Curzon Ashton are back in league action against Worcester City, and then on Tuesday in the Dudeston League Cup 2nd round, Ashton United at home to Northwich Victoria, and in the Derbyshire Senior Cup, Glossop host Gresley. Well, that's all for this week. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, for a more in-depth roundup for all your latest sport around the borough, you can listen to the Sporting Spotlight with Mark, myself, Martin and Lee on Tameside Radio tonight at 6 o'clock.